Okay, new project day. So this is a 2018 Road Glide. The customer has already installed a D&D 2-in-1 exhaust pipe. He's got the, the heavy breather option on the air cleaner here. Not sure exactly what it's called for the Screaming Eagle air cleaner. This is a 107 cubic inch Milwaukee 8 motor. And there's also got a updated SNS oil pump, cam plate, and an SNS 475 cam already in it. What we're going to do with it is actually bump it up to a 124 inch motor by installing the SNS 124 big bore kit, and then we'll retune it up and see what kind of power it makes. So I did already do a pre-run on the dyno just to see what this bike puts out now, and then we'll do another run on the dyno when we're all finished. And we'll do a comparison as far as how much power we actually gained. I'll take you along with some of the build. I won't show every step by step, but I'll show you the important parts of the build. And well, hopefully this is going to be an interesting video. Okay, so this is the dyno results of the pre-run, I guess, before we do any of the work. So this is how it came into the shop. As I said, this is a 107 M-8 with an SNS 475 cam, the modified Screaming Eagle heavy breather air cleaner, and the D&D 2-in-1 exhaust. This bike made 101 foot-pounds of torque and 102.24 horsepower. The tune put in it, it's been tuned with a DynoJet Power Vision. They had a tune installed from Fuel Moto. They did not dyno the bike. They just put in a tune that would get the customer close and down the road. And actually, it's not bad. It's not bad. It definitely needs some help. This is the air-fuel ratio chart. It needs some help below 4,000 RPM. It goes way rich, then goes lean, then kind of settles back in. And actually, beyond that, it's real close, as you can see, to where the blue line meets that dotted red line. The dotted red line is kind of where we want to be for maximum power. Okay, well, here we go. First, take off the seat, side covers, and I'm going to pull the main 50 amp fuse, so everything should be shut down. I'm also going to disconnect the battery. Just the ground cable will be fine. It wasn't that tight anyways. Don't need any accidents. Next to the gas tank, I just pull these connectors. Disconnect these. That one. The wire clip. Yep. This holds out. Oh, that's better. Now before I disconnect this fuel line, I like to shoot a little bit of, which I usually use as cable lube, any kind of lube I can squirt up inside of that connector there to kind of get a little bit of lube on that O-ring. So hopefully I don't tear that O-ring when I disconnect this. So those O-rings are hard to replace. This one is being a bit stubborn. There we go. I think I did a good job. Popped right off. All right. Okay. Fuel tank still has about a half tank with the fuel in it. This is kind of feel the weight. That's not too bad. Pops right off. It doesn't take long at all. Now that I have the gas tank off, I think I'll go ahead and put the bike up in the air, and we'll pull the exhaust. Okay, grab that spacer and put these on the shelf. Let's tackle those O2 sensors. Alright, so wire ties here. What makes these a little easier is the plug connectors are different colors. So the rear cylinder is black and the front cylinder is the lighter gray. Go. I like to squirt a little bit of WD-40 up on the cylinder head bolts where the exhaust attaches. Any extra help you can get to get these loose is a good idea. Now this pipe looks like it was installed not too long ago. Everything looks good, no rust, so it should pop off pretty easy, but still just to be sure I put a little bit of A little bit of lube on these mounting ports. Over here. There we go. Just as I suspected, the exhaust wasn't very tight anyway, so good for us, and it'll be easy to remove. Okay, let's see if it's ready to pop loose. There it goes. Easy, 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 and it's off. There we go. That the exhaust is off, it would be a good time to go ahead and dump the motor oil. Of course, we're doing performance modifications, we're building parts of the engine. Anytime I open up the engine, I like to change the motor oil. So we're going to start draining the oil now. What I found would be really useful for draining the oil on motorcycles is these. This is actually a rabbit dropping tray for like a rabbit cage. I get these at Farm and Fleet, and they're 2 feet by 2 feet. They're just the right depth. They slide right under even the lowest of motorcycles, and they'll hold all the oil you need. There we go. No problem. I'll have to ask the customer if he wants to change all the oils while we're at it, the primary and transmission as well, but at least I'll drain the motor oil now because absolutely that's going to get changed. Loosen up the dipstick, and next we'll do the filter. I use any piece of cardboard, something like that, and just kind of bend it into a little channel and slip it into the oil filter and try to direct oil out and away, where it's going to make a giant mess. That's one thing Harley never has figured out yet, is how to install an oil filter where removing it is going to make a huge mess. There we go. Filters out. There we go. Now, for one thing, Harley did not give you any room whatsoever to get into taking off these spark plug wires. So you need a tool like this, or possibly one that looks like this, to get those spark plug wires off. So, and even with these, it's a little tough to get down in there. In there. Make sure you try to get a hold of the base as much as you can, then pop up. There we go. That one was on there pretty tight too. They usually are. That one was real tight. Then the front one. Get down as much as you can. Get as close as you can to the base. There we go. That one wasn't too bad. Alright. Spark plug wires are off. Very good. Okay. Next, at this point, we'll start pulling the throttle body. Even though I've done this a bunch of times and I know where all these connectors go pretty much by heart, I still like to label them. And you don't actually have to write what the wire is for. You just, on the connector, write like an A, and then the other connector, you write another A. Next one go B, that sort of thing. So we'll take off the map sensor, and we'll start map sensor as A. Put an A on it, silver marker, and A on the map sensor itself, A. There we go. Now we know where it goes. And just do that for the rest of them. Now, some of these connectors, a little tricky to get off. But once you know the trick to it, you can do it. B. And I got a B in somewhere there. Put a B right there. B. There we go. That's right. Okay, now that I got all the electrical connectors labeled and loose, I can remove the throttle body itself. For the throttle body, you need this special wrench right there. Without this wrench, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get those bolts loose for that throttle body. So, let's begin. And the throttle body should be ready to come out. Let's see if we're stuck on something. There we go. So the little extra force popped right out. There it is. And for those of you who don't know, that's a plastic intake manifold. The throttle body itself is aluminum, but the intake itself is that same plastic that they use in all the rest of the cars today. We're going to replace this check valve that goes to the to the oil cooler anyways. Apparently Harley had some problems with those. In fact, I took one out of a bike that kind of broke apart in my hand. S&S has a sturdier, upgraded one, so we're going to replace that. So first of all, I'm going to remove the oil pressure sender unit, which pops out really easy. Drop it there. There we go. So I can gain access to the check valve. So, pop that oil hose off, and plus by doing this, I can let the oil drain a little bit out of this top oil line is there, because that's going to kind of make a mess when we pop that oil line off. to get into the rocker arm. So we're going to have to drain that a whole lot anyways, so let's get this started. Yeah, get the try to get the hose clamp off of this check valve. Now these are those clip-on clamps that look like that after you break them. I like to give them a little twist, and it pops them. And you just pull them right out. Okay, front motor mounts, front top motor mount is off, and I have to work on getting these oil lines out of the off the top of this engine. There we go. Okay. I got the hose disconnected in the front, both clamps off. So by the Harley service manual, it says you lightly blow some compressed air through the hoses, which should drain all the oil back into the oil tank if anything is left in the hose. So let's do that. Find my airline filters. Okay, just a plastic tray, kind of fits in underneath there. And get that oil line up here. Try to. There we go. And so far there's no oil coming out. So good, maybe we got it all drained. Alright, now we grab our ratchet and loosen up the bolts. Hold the oil line to the head. And these bolts, like a lot of the bolts that Harley uses, has got some kind of insanely strong Loctite on it. Those aren't too bad. One of the rocker covers are going to get into the that particular Loctite, where it's so strong the bolt will actually break as you're taking it out because the force of the Loctite is so strong. So a lot of times you either have to heat them or to melt the Loctite, or Sometimes you got to work the bolt back and forth, screw it in a little bit, pull it, back it up, screw it in, back it up, and work it until it eventually pops itself out. Okay, so that's that. Those. The oil line itself, you kind of have to spread apart, and you don't really want to bend it. You definitely have to manipulate it to get it to come out. It's going to take a little bit of force. There it goes. And it pops out. Whew. Got it. Just like that. Okay, so I just got off the upper oil lines that was covering up the rocker boxes. So now that those have been removed, I can remove the upper rocker boxes. After that, I can take out the rocker arms and the push rod tubes. Once those are out, I can take out the lower rocker boxes, which will give me access to the head bolts. Loosen up the head bolts, pull those out, pull the heads off. Then after that, taking off the cylinders is no problem. So let's get started. First, I just kind of crack everything loose. I don't just take them all out all at once. Just go through, loosen them up, and try to pull them up fairly evenly. Once all the tension's been removed, then I can just kind of zip them out. Yep. That one, yes. So now I just kind of start zipping them out. Okay, got all the upper rocker cover screws out. So I'll just pop right out. These come out pretty easily. One pops right off. Ah, that was it. Just had to move the spark plug wire. It was kind of in the way there. And popped right off. Very good. So next I'm going to pull off these rocker arms. But to do that, I'm first going to have to relieve the valve spring pressure off of them. Now to do that, it's pretty simple. All I have to do is get each cylinder, one at a time, to the top dead center of the compression stroke. So what that does is that puts the lobes on the camshaft so where the lifter is at the base circle, and both valves are closed and there's no pressure on the valve springs, to the rocker arms. So that I could loosen up the rocker arms, pull them off without causing any undue stress. You do one cylinder, then you do the other. Doesn't matter which one, but I can show you how to do that. One way to do that is just to turn the motor over with the the crankshaft, either through the cam side or the primary side. Another way you can do it is actually just lift the back end of the bike, put it in gear, and use the tire to rotate the motor over. And that's the way I'm going to do it today. Just a little bit. Put it in high gear, as high as you can go. In this case, it's a 6-speed. There we are. Because that way you have the largest mechanical advantage over the engine when you're in high gear. Make sure you pull out a spark plug, and then you can rotate the motor over. It goes over pretty quick, pretty easy. Well, kind of easy. There we go. Not too bad. So, what you can do is you watch the rocker arms and watch which one's intake, which one's exhaust, and we know that the compression stroke would be just after the intake. So once the intake valve closes, we just continue on until the piston comes back up to top dead center, and at that point, all the pressure has been relieved off these rocker arms, and both valves will be closed. And then that's when it's safe to take the rocker arms off. So let's get it there. See, intake valve is opening right now. Go slowly. Intake valve just closed. So, what I will do. So next, what I'll do is I'll just take a long, thin but sturdy wire and just reach down and touch the piston. And just feel it. And then rotate the tires, bounce it, bump it, bump it, bump it, until you find top dead center where the piston stops moving, right at the top, just before it starts going down. Right there. Going down the stroke again. So I just did the rear cylinder, and now the rocker arm should be free, and there shouldn't be any pressure on the rocker arms right now. Now, there's also a way you can check this. So, to do that, we just pop off the push rod retainers, push the push rod tubes down so you can get your fingers on the push rods, and if you could spin the push rods with your fingers, that means there's absolutely no pressure on those rocker arms. So let me get a screwdriver and do that. Just put a screwdriver in this little slot here, pops right off. While we're at it, we'll do this front cylinder. Just that simple. And then we'll, there we go, push the push rod tube itself up. Or if you can get the top part to come down either way, I like to push them up. And I can spin the exhaust, I can spin the intake. That means there's no pressure on those rocker arms. Rocker arms are safe to remove on the rear cylinder. Okay, I got a combination wrench here and a little other wrench that I use in this. Okay, these are gonna be kind of tight. So I got, these are 5/16 12 points. There we go. And you can hear that snap as they pop loose. There we go. And I crack them all loose. Those things are tight. There you go. Actually, what I did right there is I just used a 5/16 combination wrench with the, 12 point, there you go, box end, and then I'll take the, what I got is a 3/8, and you lock them together like that. Gives you a wrench twice as long now, much more leverage. Nice little trick for you. So now that these are loosened up, just, now that they're loose, pretty much spin them out with your fingers. Yep, real quick. There we go. And I'll loosen a little bit on each side. Very good. Everything's loose, and just, once they come up a little bit, just spin them right out. And just as a personal note, this works okay, this way of retaining the rocker shafts to the cylinder head. I actually think the older versions of the Harley were better for the Evolution and twin cam, using the rocker arms installed that way, but this is the way it is, so this is what we're going to deal with. So pull out the bolts. Now the rocker arms pop right up. There's the front. So there's the rear, so actually it would be one intake, one exhaust. And we'll put those on the shelf with the rest of the parts. Oops. And we'll do the same thing for the front cylinder, finding top dead center of the compression stroke again. I'll watch the rocker arms as I turn the rear tire, and then once we're on top dead center, we can remove those rocker shafts. So when you watch rocker arms as I spin the engine over the tire, intake is now opening, intake is closing, it's closed. Grab my little wire, just touch the top of the piston, and then rotate the motor with the tire. Wires coming up, wires coming up, wires coming up. And you kind of feel when it slows down when you're real close to top dead center, which is right there. We're at top dead center. Again, just to be absolutely sure, I can pull these push rod tubes up, spin, and I can spin these push rods, which means there's no pressure on the rocker arms. We're ready to remove the front the front cylinder's rocker arms. Again, I'll use my little double wrench method there. So 5/16 there, 3/8 the top of it, and cracks loose. Some people might say, oh, that ruins the tools. These particular tools, and I've been doing this for, I actually bought these in, I can tell you what, 1997. 96 or 97 is when I bought these tools. They're still fine. It doesn't hurt the tools to do that. If they do, you got cheap tools. And these are actually just Craftsman, but this is the older Craftsman's. That were a little better quality. Loosen up, loosen up. There we go. Spin up with the fingers. Little tight spots. There we go. Okay. And now the front rocker arms just pop right out. Just like that. So when we get all the rocker arms out, and I'll check the other ones too, but flip them over and look at the contact surfaces of where the valve tips touch, where the push rod goes into the push rod hole there. Pull the shaft out, look for any scoring, discoloration, check the bronze bushings in there, wear patterns. This one looks fine. Fantastic. Yeah, these parts actually still look pretty new. I don't know how many miles are on this engine, but these parts are certainly in good condition. After that, we can pull out the push rods and the push rod tubes. I do like to keep these in order. As you can tell, these are aftermarket adjustable ones. Like I said, the customer has already put in the S&S adjustable push rods, the S&S 475 cam, as well as S&S oil pump and cam plate. So that's pretty good, because I don't have to do any of that work. It's already been done. There's one thing you might notice as far as wear patterns on these M8s when you start taking off these rocker shafts. Now, the front and rear exhaust has wear patterns on the left side of the rocker stand. The intakes have wear patterns on the right side of the rocker stands. These rocker bosses, whatever you want to call them. Reason being is that the push rods are pushing the whole rocker shaft in different directions. So the exhaust push rods are on the outside of the motor, kind of pushing towards the left, and the intake push rods are closer to the inside of the motor, and they're pushing to the right. So they keep on kind of pushing that rock arm into one side or the other. It's actually one way that the twin cam was a little bit superior to the M8s, in that the push rod angles were straighter. This kind of goes back to more of what the Evolutions had, with the push rods kind of pushing that rocker arm from side to side. It's another reason why I don't really care for this rocker setup, because I only have half of the, I guess, wear surface that you used to have with the Evolutions. But that's the way it is. So far I haven't heard any problems with it. I'm just kind of wondering on high mileage bikes, or when you start going 20 years in the future, if these things are still on the road, what kind of problems that might make. Maybe I'm completely off base on that, but we'll see. Next, I'll pop the breathers out, and then we'll get that lower rocker box off. And these breather valves are only held in by one 1/4-20 Allen head. There we go. It's a long one at that. And just held in after that just by some O-rings, so it might be a little bit of pressure. I might have to get a little screwdriver in and kind of pop it up. There we go. And there it is. That's the O-ring that holds it in. That's the breather assembly. get the other one. Pop it up. Pops right up. Okay, now I'm going to remove the lower rocker box. So I think I mentioned earlier that the screws that Harley uses sometimes uses that really strong Loctite. If the screws, as you're backing them out, seems to seize or stop, just pause. Wind it, try to screw the screw back in a little bit and try to back it out again. Work it back and forth and it'll eventually break itself loose. You could add heat to these, and there's been a couple I had to, but just kind of working them back and forth usually pops them out. So we'll see how this one goes. Again, I'll just kind of crack them all loose, just to relieve the pressure evenly, just to make sure that there's no warping, no stress. See, that one there is starting to tighten up as I'm loosening it. It feels like it's getting tighter, so I'm going to have to work with that a little bit. So far, the rest of these will go a little tight too. So I got a couple over here that seem like they're getting a little bit tighter. One of them significantly tighter as I'm actually turning it counterclockwise, loosening it. That's that Harley-Davidson Loctite. So let's make sure everything's kind of broken loose. The pressure should be relieved. And we can just start working on removing the bolts at this point. So. Now, as you remove these, you have to remember that there is a center stud that the upper rocker cover screws into. That center stud has to come out. It's a different size. Instead of a 3/8 head, it's got a 7/16 head. And they look like this. Camera may or may not focus on it, but you get the idea. Don't forget those. Sometimes you just need a good little pop with the palm to kind of pop them loose. Just like that. There is an O-ring in here, and those O-rings usually seal pretty good. Alright. There you go. I gotta wiggle them past the valve springs. And then they're gonna go out the left side of the bike. Remember, just watch for that compression release wire. Just that simple. Rear. And there's the front. Okay, those are off. Now for anybody who's taken apart twin cam and evolution motors, as far as taking these 4 bolts off that hold down the heads and cylinders through gigantic long studs that go down to the engine block, it's pretty much the same thing on these M8 motors, but the studs themselves are larger diameter and held down with a lot more torque, so they take a little bit more persuasion. So again, crack them loose. Hear that snap? That's when they're pop loose. That's normal. Just a little bit at a time. Like one flat. And then go with the other side. And we'll try to loosen the bolts as much as we can, as evenly as we can. Just to make sure that there's no extra stresses put on the cylinder, the block, the heads, anything. Don't want any warping, don't want any issues, so just, again, turn them all about one flat. And just keep on working through like this until they all loosen up. There we go. Now they're getting pretty loose. We'll go a little bit farther now as we're backing them off. Okay. At this point, I think they're all loose enough. Maybe I can spin them up with my fingers. Just go through. Yeah. I think we're good. You hear that squeaking, don't you? Okay. Here's one. Oh, that one's going to be a little bit of a bugger. You know what's handy is these little like finger ratchets. You get these in all sorts of different drive sizes. This one's a 3/8. I got them quarter and half, and perfect for situations just like this. When you don't have quite enough leverage to spin it out with your fingers, but using a full-size ratchet's too much of a pain, these things are a lifesaver. Or if you're in a really, really, really hard to reach spot, these help with that too. Heck, this is working so well, should probably just grab this in the first place. Don't tell your friends. Keep this as your little secret. Okay, now again, use your palm and just kind of pop up. Pop up. There we go. Cylinder heads are loose. Make sure you got all your wires and stuff out of the way, your compression releases, plug wires, everything out of the way. You got your knock sensors. This sensor here at the long wire. And just pop right up. So sometimes they'll sit on the cylinder dowels kind of tight, like this one did, but there you go. There's the cylinder head. Pop it right off. Okay, then we'll get the front head. There we go, that one popped off a little bit easier. So this is your M8 cylinder head, four valves, two there, 4 valves per cylinder. And that's what it looks like inside. Dual plugs. And in the center is a compression release, 2 intake valves, 2 exhaust valves, and a pent style combustion chamber. So again, we're still in gear, so we can still turn over the motor with our rear tire. So we're going to pop the pistons down the bore a little less than halfway. So about a quarter of the way down the bore. That gives us some room to work with the cylinder as we pull it off. We're going to be very, very careful. Lift the cylinder up just really slowly. Give it a little wiggle. You don't want to make any sudden movements. And the piston pops out. And to get these out, so it just doesn't clear, you kind of have to work them over one of the studs real carefully. You don't want that stud to nick the inside of the bore there, because you don't want to score your finish or anything like that with, like, grooves from these threads. So I'll put this over on the shelf. Now you're going to want to protect the pistons from the studs. So I have these pieces of plastic. You can use anything. I've seen people use just any kind of hose, fuel line, whatever, anything you can get to go over these studs. You slip them on. And this protects, for one thing, the threads of the studs, and also protects the piston itself. So, all right. Now you always want to kind of support the piston, so I'm going to hold it while I do the same with the front cylinder. Just be real gentle with it. You can just let it sit like that as I pop the front cylinder off. Now with the motorcycle in gear, the motor's not going to turn over as I pull the cylinder up. It should stay right where it's at. And again, just give little wiggles when you get towards the end there. And it'll just pop off. Just like that. In the front cylinder, there's more clearance, so it usually pops off right over the studs. And this cylinder looks great. This is a 107. I don't know how many miles are on the bike, but the couple little lines in there from the skirt, but otherwise the cross hatching is real good. This piston and cylinder was wearing just fine. And again, we put our plastic covers over these studs. Now, I'm not so concerned about these pistons, as we're taking these pistons out to put in a big bore set of pistons and cylinders. But I definitely want to protect the new pistons from these studs, so we're going to put these stud covers on right now. So what I'll do now is I'll actually kind of hold and guide the pistons as I slowly rotate the crankshaft back towards where the pistons are up on top. It makes it easier to work with them for pulling the pin clips and pins and all that kind of stuff. Okay, now we're really zoomed in on the engine. So what I'm going to do now is make sure nothing falls into the bottom end here, because now it's all open. You don't want anything to go down inside. So from here, we're going to shove newspaper and blue shop towels in here. Not completely packed in, just kind of cover it up so nothing, nothing can make its way down to the bottom end. Again, newspaper's fine. The blue shop towels are real good, or any kind of lint-free shop towel. You don't want to use any kind of cloth material, no cloth towels, nothing like that, because all that lint will definitely get down inside that engine and work its way through. So here we go. Just kind of wad it up. Move the rods around if you have to, and push down in there. More. Okay. It's looking pretty good. I like to be sure nothing gets in there. So now I can clean the gasket surface, I can pull these pin clips off, I can pull the pins, and I don't have to worry about anything getting down in there. To pop these clips out, you could use a couple things. I like to use, I can't see it, there you go. Just a small screwdriver with a small tip. Yeah. And another little screwdriver that I've ground the tip on with. I haven't ground it down to a point. I'm sure you probably can't see what that looks like on your screen there, but it's kind of ground down into a long tapered, narrower version of a regular flathead. That kind of lets me get, that's perfect width for kind of getting in to these little pin clip access recesses they put in the piston. So one of these screwdrivers will do it. This is just a standard screwdriver off the shelf, and this one sometimes works too. Now while doing this, I usually recommend wearing safety glasses. So this is going to be pretty easy. So this little screwdriver is doing fine, and I don't know if you can see here or not. Probably not because my hand's in the way. I don't know. Anyways, just put the screwdriver, wedge it underneath the pin clip, and then just pry it out, and maybe give it a little twist. And now that the pin's kind of, I don't know if you can see that the clip is starting to work its way out right there. You just kind of, sometimes you grab your finger, your thumb, and your screwdriver, and just kind of pops right out. I don't know if you heard that or not. Super simple. Now the spiral locks are a whole nother deal, but these don't have spiral locks, thank goodness. That takes a little bit of experience to get those out. All right, so next, this one should be nice and simple. Again, kind of see what I'm doing here. Got there's a little recess here, designed for you to get the screwdriver, and you just pry out the clip. It's starting to come out right now. I don't know if you can see that or not. Right there. And again, just kind of give the screwdriver a little twist. And kind of pull and work with it a little bit, and it pops right out. Usually I get these out even faster. I'm just kind of going slow to show you. I usually put my other thumb right here over it so it doesn't like fly across the room. Kind of like how that last one did. But right now I'm kind of getting it, trying to get an angle so you can see versus just going in there and just ripping them out. Pop, there it goes. And it's let's see, right there. There you go. Okay. So that gets the clips out. Let's see if the pins just push out or not. Will they gonna be nice to us or no? Oh yeah, so the pins are gonna be nice. You just push from the other side. And they came right out nice and easy. So we looked out there. This rod design here, where it tapers to the top, is actually called a snake head rod. Nothing special about it other than it just weighs a little bit less on top. It gives a little bit more clearance for a little extra meat on the underside of the piston there. See if this one slides right out. Just push from the back side. Oh, this one might be a little tight. Oh, it popped out. Okay, so that's good. And it pops right off. Just like that. So let's say this pin was stuck. So there's a tool we use for that. And actually it's a pin remover tool. Looks like this. So the way that works, I can kind of show you here. Got this little screw at the end of this shaft here. The way that would work is take this piston here with the pin still in it. There we go. Then you take your tool, put it right through the pin, and on the other side, let's screw the tool all the way in. Zoop, 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 zoop. Screw this all the way into the bottoms out. So now you see we're through the pin right through the piston. You take one of these nuts. It's a reverse thread, so it's a left-hand thread. Screw it on. What that'll do is, as you pull it through, it'll catch on the pin. So it'll catch on the pin as it pulls out. And then you just wind that screw out, and it'll grab that pin and suck it right out of the piston.